Hi, it's Karen W. from Kitchener Public Library, and today we're making our macrame plant hangers. So I'm joining you from our beautiful courtyard out at Central Library. So we're going to go through the instructions, and then at the end I'm going to show you some tips and tricks if you want to continue and decorate or embellish or cut down, shape your pots. So you just need your kits. We're going to turn the camera down. In the end, you should have something like this that we're going to hopefully have full of beautiful flowers and plants that you could hang in your garden. So we have our kits right now. They came in your bag and they have one of these great keys. So that's what you're going to attach everything through, and you can hang it up by this. We've got 4 stretchy cords to make our hanging. They're about 48 inches long approximately, and they have a little bit of give. There's 2 in the cream and 2 in the blue. You have some soilless mix, so you're just gonna add your pot with some water. And inside here, we have some seeds. So you should have a packet of seeds. You can change the seeds to whatever you like. I included bachelor buttons, which says date to maturity, 42 to 49 days. They like sun, full sun, so that's that little indicator. And after about a month and a half, 2 months, you should get lots of flowers. They need to grow in the sun. They're annuals, so they come up and then they don't come up again next year. So we're gonna get started on making our kit. Now you've got this heat pot, which is about 5 inches across. So we're just going to concentrate on making our macrame hanging garden. And then at the end, I'll just give you a few suggestions if you want to decorate your pots yourself. Later on, there's lots of fun and interesting things. If these get super wet, they will get a little soft. Where's my one? So this one's been out in my garden through all those rainstorms, and as long as you don't kind of pull at them, they'll hold up pretty well. And they do biodegrade, which I love. So take your 4 cords. You've got your 2 cream and 2 blue, and put all the ends approximately together so it'll make it easier for you to do this. And you're just gonna slide your hands along till they're all kind of smooth. You're gonna take your little clip and just put them through the clip. It's hard to get it just so you can see, and I can see what I'm doing. There we go. And you want this to go through about halfway. So it's sort of like this, so all the ends are approximately in the same place. So I'm just gonna put this down here. Some might be a little bit shorter or longer. These are stretchy, and you can trim them later. So once you have this configuration, you're going to take 4 of the strands, so the strands on the left side, you're gonna take them around, wrap them around, and pull them through. So just a really simple slip knot, and then you're going to tie that knot. So just taking that, and you're going to repeat that knot over and over and over, and you want it really close to the bottom of the ring because you want to have lots of room to work. So just make sure it's about, like all the ends are about the same length before you start really tightening things. But once you think you've got it in the right place, you really need to pull this tight so you have lots of material to work with and you don't waste a lot of material up at the top. So it should kind of look like this. And this is going to be our first knot. So I'm separating this, we're looking at it downwards, into 4 double strands. So I have like a blue, white, and I kind of laid them out the way they naturally fall, the way they're coming out of this knot. And now we're going to take our first one, and so I'm going to use inches because that's what I grew up with. So I'm going to start kind of here, and I'm going to have the first knot at 5 inches. So it's approximate 5 inches. Again, it's a simple slip knot. Just pull it through. And make sure it's kind of that the knot is up higher, not like down low, because you don't want to end up stretching down to 6 or 7. So you want that knot kind of from the top of this to be closer to the 5 inches. So I'm just going to move it up Just a simple knot, and you want these two strands to be smooth, so just adjust your knot. I wouldn't pull it super tight so you get everything the way you want it. So I'm going to do all the other knots around here, and I'll just speed it up for them. Okay, so we've done a first series of knots. I'm going to lay it out again. So again, it should look sort of like this. These should be about the same length. The knots go around. And now we're going to start our next configuration. So if you just smooth these out, and what I like to do is 2 blue to 2 white, but you could choose to do a white and blue. You just need it to be able to make, let me move that up a bit, this shape. So all around here, this should be able to make these kind of configurations over and over, this kind of diamond shape. And you're going to take the from the first knots, which are not tight yet. We do need to tighten those up because you don't want to waste a lot of material, and also it looks neater. So I'm just going to tighten. I think these, I'm pretty happy with those. I'm going to take my ruler and I'm going to start here, and I want the next knot at about 3 inches. Okay, so I'm going to take these two, and I want this knot to sort of fall at about 3 inches. So again, I'm going to speed this up, and we can just do this around, and I'll leave little pictures up in the top so you can see what I'm doing. I finished my second series, so I've got my first series of knots. It's about 4 inches, the knot's about 4.5 inches down. And then just 2 or 3 inches. And then what we have is all this material at the bottom. You can see it's different lengths. So what I like to do, you are able to tie this, but it's kind of awkward to do it. So what I think works better for me, and what I would suggest, is now mine often has one strand that's like super long, so I'm trimming. I want them all to be about the same. So I'm just going to use a pair of scissors. I'm cutting off about 3 or 4 inches. You don't need it very long. You could also use a piece of twine or yarn or an elastic, whatever you want. I just think it's cleaner and neater. And I'm going to tie this just below these series of knots. So I'm just going to take this. And this is just a really simple, again, slip knot. It can be fairly close to these cords, and I'm going to tighten everything at the end when I make sure everything works. And I'm just going to do it twice. So simple knot. It has to be secure enough though that the pot, when you put your pot inside, that it doesn't fall through, and it's going to have weight in it, and it needs the pot's going to sit inside this kind of basket shape. Show you. These are all going to open up, and it'll be able to sit inside there. So I'm just going to show you that in a second. Okay, so we're almost done. So the tricky part is getting the pot in a little bit. It should look kind of like this. Just if you want to take your ruler or very carefully measure it against each other. This first strand from where it's kind of leaving the knot to the top of the knot should be about 4.5 inches. So you want the knot kind of to be at that 5 inch. And once you get them all measured out, make sure they're all approximately hitting that. And that's important because you need enough room in here to get your pot in. And then once you have that, just make sure everything's super tight. Use maximum strength, but make sure it's measured properly. Then the second knot should be sitting right at that about 3 inches. So just make sure everything's kind of ready about the same so that it hangs and it's got some balance. I'm just gonna go from knot to knot. You can still adjust these. They're once you tighten them, they're a little hard to do, but it is not impossible to keep taking these. I had to adjust mine a couple times and just go around. And then you've got that final from these knots, and they all should be sitting about the same. From the final knots down here, it's about 3 inches. You can adjust that a little bit. The important thing is this has got to be a tight knot. So you're just tying it so that a pot will not fall through. So having done this a couple times, what I'd really suggest is drawing. You can do it like a decorative shape or a simple shape. And I think it's much easier to get the pot in if you cut off the top. And I actually think it looks much more interesting. So if you want to go down about 1/2 inch or 1 inch, and I just cut a simple decorative design on the top of my pot. And I think that'll really make it fit a little easier. You can fit it in full size, so here's the instructions. So if you want to put it in first and then scoop in your soil, that's not a bad idea. So let's do this together. So it's just because of the way the macrame knots, you have to sort of easily, gently put this in because it is peat and it will rip. So just take your time. So look around and you're looking for a big V, so like one of these diamond shapes. So find maybe your loosest diamond shape. It should be about that big. And you're gonna start to put your pot in. Now it will look like it won't fit because you've got to sort of angle it in here. So just slide it through to your reaching here. Don't force it, don't rip it. And then what you're gonna start to do is pull this part out and angle this around. So what it does is catch, these knots catch. So just slide them and then carefully slide this in so you're not ripping. Move this, so just be a little gentle till you get it in place. And then carefully put these here. And it is catching there because there's all these knots, so you just have to keep adjusting things. And what you want is this knot to be sitting right in the middle of the bottom. So once you're sort of getting it in place, keep adjusting it, just pull around. So I just eased it in. Hopefully that's clear. You put that there, and now you can pull it. So you want this kind of look of these nice shapes, and you can sort of start spreading things out and make it more decorative so that you get all these nice little shapes here going. But basically it will be sitting in here. Open it up, and now it's easily fits in. So it will fit in, I promise. It just, you have to kind of ease it in around all this and try not to crush this. Now if you want to use your own pot, you want to use a smaller pot, maybe 3 or 4 inch ceramic pot. I like to use something that's biodegradable. So it's kind of looking like this. And now for our final stage for this is I'm just going to even those out. So you can see I still have lots of odd ends. And then I'm not wearing, I don't have the best scissors, but I'm just gonna try and clean this up a bit so that they're approximately the same. Now, again, you could measure this. I mostly just do things by eyeball, but please feel free to do whatever you like. So just cut these off. Make sure the patterns are all like the way you like it. You'll be able to hang it up by this. And make sure it's sitting far down so that none of these knots are kind of catching on the bottom of your pot. And it should be, and then you just can adjust these. You can play around with the patterns here so that everything opens up and it looks nice. So what we're gonna do next is, and that should be about in the middle, so you want it to kind of hang right in the middle. I'm just gonna set it down. It's a little wonky, but not too much of a problem. And I'm gonna take my soil, and we're just gonna fill that up. So if you take your soil bag, this is dry. I would suggest putting it in dry, and then you can water it. And you can just tip it right in there. The whole bag goes in there. And 1 bag should be lots for the purposes. If you get a little on there, we'll just shake it off, just press it down. I would water this thoroughly. You're going to keep this in the sun, and then we have our seeds. And so I'm just going to tell you the instructions. So you are supposed to plant them about 1/4 of an inch, and they need to be about 6 inches. They can get tall, but they should droop over, and they'll grow all around things. So you would take these, once this is fairly moist, and you've got several seeds. So you're just gonna take one, poke a little hole, drop it in. So that's just about a 1/4 inch. And then you're going to do that around and put it in the sun and make sure it doesn't completely dry out. So you do have to take care of it. I wouldn't soak it because this is a peat pot, and then this will be hanging up like this. If you want this to come out, just make sure that you really carefully and gently, you're just gonna have to ease it back out the same way. So start at the top, put these, just carefully, make sure it's not wet when you're doing this. It's stronger when it's dry, and then you could pull this out. So if you want to take your pot out and decorate it after, you just have to, with soil, you'd have to ease it back in like I showed you. And I'm gonna show you 2 ways we could decorate this. So I have a couple spare pots, and one is just to use markers. And this will absorb it quite nicely. So if you want to do just abstract patterns, and so I'm just gonna spend some time coloring, and I'm gonna speed this part up. And this one I thought might be fun. I have some yarn, and I'm just going to glue it and wrap it and then put it back in, and I'll show you the finish. Our macrame project. I think it's a really fun craft, and I'm going to hang mine up in my garden. This is Karen W. from Kitchener